There's some big news coming in on the same. IAF now to be the first service to kick off selection under the new Agnipath recruitment model process that begins on the 24th of June. Remember, we're already looking at large-scale protests by army aspirants who claim that this new Agnipath scheme will scuttle their chances of a full-fledged career within the army. Well, that said, the IAF now already forging ahead. They're going to be the first service to kick off selection process under the new Agnipath recruitment model. The process now is all set to begin on the June 24th. The government, of course, has been trying hard. They've been putting their army chiefs right in front to try and quell all the misinformation that's spreading. At this point, the IAF becomes the first service to kick off selection process on the 24th of June. Shiv Arun, who's tracking those developments, joins us live. Shiv, IAF and its vision to recruit from a younger age group. What would be the IAF's vision? And more importantly, what would be the criteria of this selection process that begins on June 24th amid all the protests?
Nabila, the Indian Air Force is the first service that will be kicking off the Agnipath scheme with the first cycle beginning on June the 24th, as you rightly said. The criteria are precisely the same. These are for enlisted air warriors, who will be part of different trades in the Indian Air Force, from the maintenance staff to the technical staff, who are responsible for a wide variety of operations within the Indian Air Force to support air power operations. So the Indian Air Force is kicking things off at a time when you're seeing these widespread protests all across the country. We've heard the Indian Air Force Air Chief Marshal VR Chaudhari speaking out about Agnipath today as well. There is a sense of shock over the spate and scale of the protests that have taken place in different parts of the country. But remember that the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy, Nabila, are much smaller than the Indian Army. Recruitment to the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy are therefore much smaller issues than the Army. The protests you're seeing out there, the huge anger that you're seeing out there, is largely focused on Bharti in the Thal Sena, the Indian Army. Not so much the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy. So it's going to be interesting to see when Agnipath actually kicks off for the Indian Army, whether there will be any special amendments there, because that's where the anger is really focused. However, the Indian Air Force announcing that it will be kicking off its own selection under Agnipath on June the 24th means that Elvis has left the building. The scheme is definitely, has wheels. It's going to roll by. The government late last night, remember, had actually, in response to these protests and concerns, had announced a waiver on the age, increasing it from 21 to 23 for just the 2022 cycle. That will also apply to the Air Force, because remember, there are many aspirants for all three services who haven't had any recruitment for 2 years, Nabila, because of the pause during the pandemic. So the Air Force has the distinction, if I can use that word amidst all these protests, to be kicking off Agnipath on June the 24th.